Hey guys, this is Mike. In this video, we're going to animate a sprite. So to start out with, I'm going to copy the sprite from the moving sprites example. See, I'm going to copy this one with Mega Man running into an older project, drawing sprites. Now, when I open this up, you'll remember that our old example drawed a bunch of penguins. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to undo this. I'm just going to draw one penguin, and I'm going to draw him at 0 rotation. And let's go ahead and get rid of that comment as well. So now I'm going to draw one penguin in the middle of the screen, and he's just going to be right side up. Now, instead of loading in the penguin, I want to load in our Mega Man sprite, which was called mm_run. So now when I run this, we should see our Mega Man sprite in the middle of the screen. Notice that it's drawing all 4 of the frames. That's not what we want, right? I mean, we're trying to animate this guy. So notice that there's 4 frames, right, in Mega Man_run. What we need to do is tell our sprite that there's 4 frames. So right after the name of the sprite, on disk, we put the number of frames in that file. So now, if we compile and run this, we're going to see just 1 frame of Mega Man. If you remember correctly, the draw function of the sprite takes the x coordinate, the y coordinate, the rotation of the sprite, and then it takes a frame. To animate this guy, I need to change this frame constantly. So when I drew at frame 0, his legs were open and his arms were apart. If I drew at frame 1, we should see his legs together and his arms at his side. But we want to change this constantly if we're going to animate. And to do that, we need a variable, because it's going to change. And I'm going to call this variable frame. So up here, under create stuff here, I'm going to create a floating point number called float, called frame, I'm sorry. I'm going to set it equal to 0. Now, in our loop, we're going to increase this frame. And I'm going to move it at about, 10 frames per second. So 10 times dt. This is 10 frames per second. If you had a longer animation, it would be preferable that it was running at 25 to 30 frames per second. But since this animation only has 4 frames, 10 frames per second will look probably the best at this point. One problem with this, though, is that the frame can only go between 0 and 3. It can't be equal to 4 or greater than 4. So we need to cap this frame. And to do that, we check the frame. So if the frame is greater than or equal to 4, and this is 4 because there's 4 frames in our sprite. So if it's greater than or equal to 4, we're going to set our frame equal to 0. So this way Mega Man will appear to just keep on running and running and running, when in fact it's going to the end of the animation and then going back to the beginning. So let's go ahead and compile and run this. And now we should see Mega Man running in place. So now, why don't you try adding a change in the x-coordinate of the sprite to make it appear that Mega Man's actually running. If you have any questions, I'll see you guys in class.